Alright, in today's video we're going to be taking a morbid look at like what would happen, say, for example, a felon, someone like me or one of these viewers that's a felon, gets caught with a gun. What type of time is he actually facing? Because obviously there's 922G that says you can't have a gun, but a lot of people are like, America, I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to have a gun. So what type of time will you actually be looking at? How does the sentencing break down? Because you can actually get more than 15 years for 922G, depending on the exact circumstances of how exactly you get caught. Now, before we get into that, one of the things I do need to remind you about is only tactical fans at Shopify.com, where you can purchase some cool merchandise like morale patches, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, just really awesome stuff. I'm working on trying to get some other inventory in there soon. And that's important because I'm currently demonetized on YouTube, likely forever. I mean, we'll see what happens in the future, but that's how I pay my bills right now. That's what's floating all this and making all this possible. Anyways, I appreciate the people that do shop there. Thank you. I can't do it without you guys. All right, so I'm not big on disclaimers because they don't work. For example, at sentencing, I had made a video where I was like, hey, you know, if the feds show up at your house, specifically the ATF, if they have enough evidence to arrest you, they're going to arrest you right then and there. They're not going to say a word to you except for basically verifying your identity, turn around, cuff up, and let's go into the transport vehicle. I was like, so if they're there, just there to talk to you, what they're doing is they're fishing. And they're trying to reel you in. They're trying to get enough information to be able to provide information for an indictment because they were working on an indictment and they couldn't convince the grand jury. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to fish. They're trying to get you to say something they can put in front of the grand jury that will ultimately land you a conviction. So, if the feds show up to you, what you want to do is get a lawyer. Right now, you're a free man. Let's keep it that way. Talk to a lawyer immediately. Get legal advice. Don't talk to them. If they're persistent on talking to you, be like, okay, I'm going to have my lawyer contact you. He'll talk to you, and we'll have a meeting. It'll be you guys, my lawyer, and me, and we're all going to talk. Don't just freeball it and talk to them. Anyway, at sentencing, they said, and I had a disclaimer there. The disclaimer was like, hey, I'm not giving legal advice. If you take legal advice from me, you're stealing. We're just talking about the conversation. We're just conversating on possible outcomes for different things and what may happen and different ways to approach them. Again, you need to get your own legal advice. Now, that's not the word for word verbatim, the disclaimer I gave, but that's the general ballpark. Anyways, at sentencing, the prosecutor was basically like, oh, and he's instructing his followers to break the law and that you'll get away with it as long as you don't talk to the feds if they show up. Otherwise, we would have found a whole bunch of people that had converted auto key cards to machine guns, but because he said that's the reason we didn't find any, so we need to enhance him for saying that type of stuff on YouTube. Ultimately, I don't feel, well, you know what? The max of my charge is 5 years and I got 5 years. So clearly, that sentence, what she said mattered. That, hey, he's utilizing the First Amendment and I don't like it. I want him hammered. And it clearly worked. Long story short, disclaimers are meaningless. They will not save you at court. It doesn't matter. The best disclaimer in the world, it's not going to save you. But in this particular video, I'm going to give a disclaimer. Just because the prosecutor's been inappropriately inserting herself into my life. Like she was there at my arraignment and stuff like that. Like when she has no business being there. She lives in a different state, inappropriately the whole time. So I could definitely see her continuing to do that and contacting my P.O. after this video drops and being like, hey, he's telling people how to navigate and break federal law. And that's not what I'm doing here. That's not at all. What I'm doing is I'm taking experience and knowledge I know that you wouldn't know unless you've been incarcerated or you went through the legal system and putting it there so people can watch it and not have to go through that to understand this bit of information. No, I'm not suggesting anyone breaks the law. No, nothing like that. Not at all. I'm just saying what would happen if you did. It's curious. Like, people want to know what happens if I get caught drunk driving. It's not like they're planning on going to drink and drive, unless, of course, you live in Wisconsin, because everybody in Wisconsin drinks and drives. But outside of that, they're just curious. Like, what kind of real penalties are out there? And the point of this video is to say that, hey, when the politicians are like, oh, we need gun reform and we need all these harsher penalties, they already exist. People just don't know because it's not like some mass knowledge thing. It's buried in sentencing guidelines. Ghost gun penalties exist. Multiple firearm penalties exist. Breaking the law with a firearm exists. All these penalties already exist on the book. So when they're saying this stuff in front of people, oh, we need common sense gun reform, we need penalties for these particular crimes, they're already there. And that's what this video is about. Basically, like breaking down how sentencing actually works and explaining that all that stuff you see on TV is just a lie. These penalties exist, they're fighting for nothing, they're fighting for actual gun control. Alright, so you need to understand the federal guideline sheet. It looks like this right here. Obviously I got it on the screen. I can't see it because, I haven't put it on the screen yet because I'm still recording the video. The point is, I'm going to break down. So on the one side, so depending on how you're looking, so it'll be your left side, you have the numbers that go all the way down. It goes from 1 to, I think, 34 or something like that. Again, I'm not looking at the sheet right now. That is offense levels. Depending on what your level is, that's where you will be sentenced at. Now, the numbers at the top, those are criminal history points. I'm going to talk about this whole video under criminal history number 1 because I've ran into 6-point losers in transit and in prison, and these guidelines don't apply to them for a couple of different reasons. 1, they're going to get ridiculous enhancements. 2, they're going to be telling. That's the way it is. If you're a 6-point offender, no offense, but the people I ran into in prison, especially in transit, if you're a 6-point offender and you get caught up on something, immediately you're telling. The whole time you're on the street, you're writing down information that you can use so when you get caught up, you can tell on those people and get out. I would never, if you're thinking about breaking the law, do not do it with somebody that's a 6-point offender or has been incarcerated before because they're going to tell on you. That's the way it is. The difference between the guy at a low or a camp or the guy sitting in pen doing life is the guy who told. The guy who's sitting in a low or a camp doing 10 years maybe, yeah, he told. The guy sitting at a pen doing life, he didn't tell. Nobody wants to be at the pen. You're probably going to die there. Like, it's a murder house, no joke. So, we're only going to cover offense level 1s. Now, you'll see the different levels on there where it's got the letters, it's got like A, B, C, D. Anything that's in a D is mandatory incarceration. So basically, any 922G law at all, no matter what, you're going to prison. That's the way it is, unless, of course, you tell. And it really became apparent when I was sitting in county because the guy that was in there, I'm not going to say his name, he got caught with a firearm on 922G, got pretrial release, got caught with a second firearm with a Glock switch on it. He should have got like 15 years or so. You know what he got? He got 27 to 33 months. That's a base level 18. And I was just confused about that. But when they sentenced us, they were like, hey, you guys are like one of the only guys with firearm charges that didn't tell, so that's another reason why we're going so hard. And I'm like, oh, well, that explains that. I was wondering how he got so little time. He got 27 to 33 months, and I got 60 months for a drawing. He had actual real machine guns on the street, and he violated with another firearm while he was on pretrial release for a firearm. Yeah, it's really like that. So, let's get into this and start going through it now that you have a general understanding of guideline sheets and why we're not going to talk about the different criminal history levels because it doesn't matter. They're in their own game. They're going to get out and immediately they're going to contact the people they met in prison that can hook them up with a Mexican cartel so they can bring drugs in. They're immediately going to get themselves an illegal firearm with a serial number removed off of it. They don't care. And they already know that, hey, I'm just going to keep a log of all these people and all these crimes, and as soon as I get hemmed up, I'm going to tell on them. I'm going to sit like maybe 2-3 years in the Fed. I'm going to get out and I'm going to do it again. So that's why I just... We're going to take a detour on this video. So that's why I'm talking about like the federal guidelines don't matter. They matter to people that are straight up people. The people that are actually out there creating these crimes and causing all this devastation in society and ripping society apart. They let them out immediately anyway. Because you know what? They tell and then they let them back out. And if they have enough information, the DA makes them an undercover informant and they go out there and they're illegally allowed to break all the laws they want and just bring in low-level players. They'll never tell on a boss. No, because that's where they're going to be making their money, but they're going to tell on all of his gophers and foot soldiers. So, it's just upsetting. Like, literally, the people that should be incarcerated immediately go home because they start telling. Like, those are the dangerous people in society, and the government puts them right back on the street. But then somebody, like, I'm not trying to, like, put myself in a, like, I'm better than them, because I'm not. I broke the law, too. Obviously, my circumstances are a little bit weird. I did my time. I understand that, please. I'm not trying to elevate myself as better or anything like that, or say that there's something wrong with telling. What I'm saying is the people they allow to get back out immediately definitely should not be on the street. Like I said, I ran into these people at transit, and they will never be able to acclimate themselves in society. They are about themselves. They will squash or hurt anybody that they want. It's really that bad. So this whole, like, we're going to give people breaks for information is a very, very flawed system. That's what I'm trying to get at here. And it needs to be changed. I don't know how, but I get they want to increase their arrests and they want to increase their indictments and all that, but giving people breaks is not the way to do it. You're taking the exact people that should be incarcerated and let them right back out on the street. And, well, let's get on to the video. All right, so if you get convicted of a felon in possession of a firearm, you're looking at a base level under sentencing guidelines 2K 2.1 around 14. So you're right here. You're looking at about 1 year. That's 15 to 21 months. Now I know that doesn't really look like a 21. Let me fix that right quick. 15 to 21 months. So around a year. A little bit more than a year, but right around a year. So that's with no other crimes, no criminal history, and you have to have a firearm that does not take a magazine. We'll explain this later, but it has to be like a pump-action shotgun, a revolver, a lever-action rifle. Now I know what you're thinking, oh, SKS, that's not really a detachable magazine. They will definitely count that as a detachable magazine. So it can't be an SKS. This needs to be something that absolutely cannot fit more than 15 rounds of ammunition in it. Now, like, well, hey, CRS, what if I buy a Glock 19 and that's a bad example. What if I buy a 1911, you know, that takes a standard 7-round magazine. You can buy 15-round magazines for that, and I promise you, yes, the law says the judge is going to allow the prosecutor to hit you with the enhancement because it's possible to put a 15-round magazine in it. That's what it breaks down to. That's the exact stories I see in prison. Yeah, we'll go over how it's supposed to work, but basically if it takes a detachable magazine, you're going to get enhanced, and a large enhancement too. Now the judge can go as high as they want. Remember, the max is 15 years. So they could be like, all right, so you're at a 14, well, we're going to give you 150 months. That can happen. That really can. Will that sentence stick? No, because there's 5 factors when they're sentencing, and one of them is you must be similarly sentenced. It's the reason why I got so much time too, because nobody brought or sold that many illegal machine guns in American history, so there's nobody to similarly sentence me to, so they have to put me at the max, so they have a ceiling, and then they can similarly sentence everyone below it. So you need to be similarly sentenced, so yes, the judge could give you 15 years, but you're going to go through the appellate process, and it's going to be broken back down. Understand the appellate process is going to take years. You're going to be past 15 to 21 months by time you go through the appellate process. So you're going to sit some extra time, and the judge can definitely do that. That's just the way it is. And would they do it for a 1-point offender? Probably not. But you understand, that's what's out on the table. That's what I'm getting at here. All right. So under 922G, you cannot possess firearms or ammunition, period. Like there's no shots fired, no crime in progress, just possessing that is what we're talking about here. So just the possession of either firearms or ammunition, boom, 15 to 21 months. That's where you're going to be sentenced at. Now, let's start adding on enhancements, because this is where things get scary. Circling back to magazines that can go inside of a firearm. If you have a firearm enhancement that's a high capacity magazine, again, that's their terminology, not ours, and that high capacity magazine to a semi-automatic firearm, it doesn't just add points. It jumps your base offense level up all the way to 20. Bam! So, without any other enhancements, just having a firearm that can take a detachable magazine, again, that's not the way the guidelines are written, but I promise you I've sat time with people, that's exactly what happened. they had a firearm that had a 7-round magazine or a 10-round magazine or a rifle that had a smaller magazine because they knew about this, and the judge allowed the prosecution to give them the enhancement anyways because it could have taken the higher capacity magazine. So you're looking at 33 to 41 months. That's your base level. No other enhancements. That's it. So that means you're looking at 2 to 3 years just for having a firearm that takes a magazine. So if you're a felon and you're going to have a firearm, you want a revolver, a pump-action shotgun, a lever-action rifle, or something that absolutely cannot take a magazine. Ghost guns, or otherwise, what we call privately manufactured firearms, or if the serial number is obliterated. They pretty much lump all that together. So we're going to pretend that you have a revolver. So you're not at 20, we're going to start you at 14. But remember, you can definitely start at 20. For having a privately manufactured firearm, you're jumping up by 4 points. Or if the serial number is removed. So if the serial number is removed and it's a revolver, you're going to go up to 18. That's 27 to 33 months. Now, if this is like an AR-15 or like a P80 or something like that, obviously it takes a high cap magazine. Now you're going from 20 to 24. Now you're looking at 51 to 63 months. So you take the base level, which either 20 or 14, and you add 4 points on it. That's just for not having a serial number on the firearm. That's a lot of time. You definitely do not want to have a PMF, or what the legal system calls a ghost gun, if you're a felon. That's just unnecessary time you don't want to have to deal with. Definitely do not play with those at all. Next one, if the gun is stolen. Now, it doesn't mean you have to steal the gun, just if the gun is stolen, period. What you're looking at is a 2-point enhancement. So let's pretend it's a privately manufactured firearm at a 20. It takes a magazine, so now you're at a 24. Now you add on 2 more points. So now you're at a 26. I didn't actually put those numbers down because, man, 63 is a long time. You're over 5 years now. No reason to go that. But anyways, here's the chart. So now you're looking at a 26. That's wild. That's a lot of time for having a privately manufactured firearm that was stolen from somebody. And you're a felon. You see how it starts to really pile up here? Here's a big one that absolutely should concern you. That's multiple guns. So you'd be like, oh, well, what if I have more than one gun? Well, the courts see it as like you're trying to build an arsenal. So they wind up ramping up time big time. All right, so we're going to pretend that these are all, none of these can take a magazine. It's all just a whole bunch of shotguns, lever actions, break action shotguns, stuff like that. At 3 to 7, so if you have 3 guns, you're going to go from a 14 to a 16. You're going to get 2 points. All right, so 8 to 24 guns, you're going to get 4 points. So now you're going to be at an 18. All right, it keeps going. At 25 to 99 guns, you're going to get 6 points. So 14. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You're going to be at offense level 20. Sorry, I cracked a little bit on your math. At 100 to 199 guns, you're looking at a plus level of 8. So now you're going to be down in the 20s. And then at 200 plus guns, you're going to be going at a plus level of 10. So you're going to go from a 14 to a 24. So you definitely don't want to have multiple guns. If you're a felon, you want to have less than 3 guns. 3 guns is the maximum. Well, actually 2 guns is the maximum, because once you get into 3, it's a 2-point enhancement. So if it's all revolvers, all with serial numbers, and you have 3 of them, or like let's say you have a revolver, pump action shotgun, and then you wanted a rifle as well, so you also got a lever action rifle. That's 3 firearms. So your base level is going to be 16, 21 to 27 months. So on the high side, you're looking at 2.25 years. And again, remember, the judge can do whatever they want, but that's basically what you're looking at. They see if you have multiple firearms, which I don't understand how 3, I guess 3 hits the definition of multiple, but yeah, they see that as you're trying to traffic guns.
And so now what happens to these guns?
They go to the buyer that's on his way.
Oh, there's a buyer on his way right now?
Now we're going to talk about basically 924Cs, but we're going to keep this under a 924G. We're going to pretend that the prosecutor doesn't go for a 924C. They're going to. but we're going to pretend that you gave up some good information. So they went from a 924C and it's just 922G connected with another felony. You're looking at 4 more points right off of the rip. So you're going to go from a 14 to an 18. Now, if they do go for 924C, and they absolutely will, unless of course you're telling, you're going to be looking at a minimum mandatory of 5 years. That's per gun. Now, it's supposed to be, so like my buddy Bishop, he actually got hemmed up on this. He had 4 guns, and at that point in time, it went 5, 10, 20, and 25. So he got like 60 years. I'm going to do a video on him later because his case was pretty wild. So he got like 60 years for just 4 guns connected with another crime. It's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be, if you get caught with 1 crime, you get a 5-year minimum mandatory. Now, if you do that sentence and you get out again, now you move up to the next category. So now you're looking at 10 years. And then if you get out and you get caught again, now you're looking at 20. But the judges right now are actually fighting with this because they like to be able to hit somebody like, okay, he got caught with 4 guns. There was 1 on him, 1 in the back seat, and 2 in his trunk, and he was selling drugs, so we're going to give him 60 years. That's what they're going with right now. The Sentencing Commission is like, absolutely not, don't do that, but they're fighting. Right now it's in the Supreme Court, and they're trying to figure out whether or not it's going to happen. The point is, if you're selling dope and you're not a 6-point offender that immediately plans on, telling on a bunch of people to get off, don't have firearms. If you're going to have firearms, do not have any other felonies. Do not have drugs. Do not have anything like that. Otherwise, you're going to wind up catching a whole lot of time because it's going to stack up really, really, really quick. But we're not worried about that because if you're watching this channel, I really doubt you're a 6-point offender. You don't become a 6-point offender by getting hemmed up on some stupid gun charge. You've went to prison, you've got out, you've went to prison, you've got out, you have violence in your past. It's pretty doom and gloom for you. All right, so now let's talk about special weapons or ammunition. It gets worse yet. So ammunition like armor-piercing ammunition often has a 15-year maximum mandatory minimum. That means you're looking at, if you get caught with armor-piercing ammunition, 15 years. That's wild. Silencers or machine guns, wow. It could be up to 30 years, depending on if it was used with a crime or not. NFA weapons, like short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, all start at a base level of 18 to 22, and then they just layer on enhancements from there. You absolutely do not want to be playing with any NFA items if you're a convicted felon. Next thing you know, you're in there for 30 years. It's wild. Again, back to my county story, dude should have had a sentence like that. It should have been 15 to 30 years, but that's how much time the feds will just sweep under the rug if you cooperate. It's that bad. All right, so let's talk about another big one with guns. This is a huge one. And again, you always hear the politicians and stuff saying like, oh, we need stricter laws on if people are bad guys with the guns. They're already there. It's called ACCA. Now, for whatever reason, whenever I talk about this, I always default to ACC. So if I do in this video, I apologize. What I'm actually trying to say is ACCA, which stands for Armed Career Criminal Act. But once I get talking, it'll probably come out as ACC. I don't know why I say it like that. The whole time I was incarcerated, they'd be like, do you mean ACCA? I'm like, yes, that's what I mean. I apologize. Anyways, so what are we looking at here? This is one of the worst case scenarios. So what it is you've had 3 prior crimes. So it could be like 2 drug crimes and now you're on your 3rd, or you had 2 violent crimes and now you're coming back on your 3rd. You've had 3 prior crimes that are serious drug crimes or crimes of violence or something like that. Boom, the baseline. Like, you're not going to get any better, even with telling information. Like, even the 6-point offenders, they're pretty bent at this point. 15 years minimum mandatory. But usually if they tell enough information, they take away the ACC and charge them under 922G, and they do like 5 years or something like that. But they should get 15 years minimum mandatory plus. So you got 15 years minimum mandatory for the guns you had. Well, now you're also going to get another 5 for the dope, and then the assault on an officer, and you should be doing life, but we're going to give you 5 because you told on some people. Anyway, that's 924C. That is the big one. That is the one that that scares the shit out of people. That's typically why people don't carry guns if they're not a firearms, a career criminal, because the ACC just scares the crap out of them. And it stacks too. You could get hit with the ACC. Now, like I was saying earlier, the judges are trying to fight this because they like being able to give 60 years on a first-time offender for 924Cs, but ACC is a whole nother level on top of that. Like if you discharged it, you got 15 years minimum mandatory. You discharge it, that adds on another 10 years. High-capacity magazine, arsenal, drugs. You're quickly approaching life. And now there's life, like where it's written on paper, like you have no outdate. And then there's natural life. They consider that 25 years or more. You can easily get 25 years or more when you're talking about an ACC putting in there, especially if it's like a machine gun, it's done in a robbery, there's violence involved. You're quickly up to like 25 to plus 40 years. It really adds up that fast. And yeah, I had a couple of people I had some time with that are on the back end of those sentences, and man, they're just old men. They did something stupid in their 20s. Yeah, so basically they got like an assault, a major drug charge, got some petty time for that, and then bam, they get hit with like a Hobbs Act robbery. ACC'd out, they got like 50 years. Yeah, they're old men, and they're like, man, I spent my entire life in prison. This is ridiculous. Anyways, so base 1 to 2 years. That we're gonna just break it down like pretty much what you're looking at here. So the base level, got a revolver or a pump action shotgun, less than 3 guns, you're looking at 1 to 2 years. Now, it takes a detachable magazine, you're bumping up to 3 to 6 years. Now, it doesn't have a serial number, so 5 to 8 years. Now, it also has been stolen, 7 to 10 years. Multiple firearms, 15 to 20 years. Man, you see where it's going here? Now you get ACC'd, bam, 20 plus years in the feds. It really, really, really adds up really, really, really fast. Again, revolver, pump action shotgun, maybe a bolt action rifle if that's what you want to do. I would not mess around with anything semi-auto. I would not mess around with any PMS. I would not definitely buy any stolen firearms. And I wouldn't even consider any of this if I did any other crime like selling drugs or something like that. So, the next important thing you need to know is if you'd like to help support the channel directly, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. 1, I got my Cash App right here, but 2, an easier way that doesn't even cost you any money, I got affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links, even if you don't purchase what that link is for, just clicking on it. And doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway, I had a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.